Hi, I'm Danny.
And I'm Jay.
And this is I Dare You to Play
Pokemon Blue version.
Pokemon! I already caught one. Check it out. I got me a Pokemon.
Pretty sure that's Captain America.
Captain America's not a Pokemon? Hold on. I caught a bunch of stuff. Hold on. Is this Pokemon?
That's Happily Divorced Bear.
That is Happily Divorced Bear. Is this a Pokemon? Right here. I got me a Pokemon. He's scary and everything. He'd get you.
No, I don't think that is.
I don't understand this game at all.
This is a Pokemon.
It is not a Pokemon. That is Ryan Reynolds.
Okay, that one time it was Ryan Reynolds. But not this time.
I challenge your Pokemon to a fight. Rawr! No? I don't understand this game. Alright, welcome to episode 31.
Of I Dare You to Play Pokemon Blue.
We got that. And episode
part
2.
In
part 2 of Nate the Giant Talking Snake.
Yeah.
So, which we seem way more happy about. Fuck it, I'm just walking out and healing because it's not that far.
So we left off.
Yeah, so they had made a cave for Roger to sleep in, right?
Right.
It basically, he spends the next week or so just like healing up, because remember his leg was kind of fucked up and he tweaked his arm. And so, and he tells Nate, like, okay, look, if you just let me stay here so I can heal up and kind of rest up and get my strength back, and maybe you can show me the way out of the desert, right. then I'll leave. And I'll never tell anyone you were here, like, because, we don't want anything to happen to the lever or whatever. Like, he says whatever he has to say in order for Nate to let him fucking stay alive and not eat him, right?
Right.
So he makes this little cave for him, and they spend the next week or two, again, like, just talking. Like, he finds his way back to the plane, he resupplies, like, Nate even helps him, like, carry some stuff back or whatever, he, like, meets him halfway, because he's just that big of a snake, right? And, like, he can go up and just be like, oh, your plane's over there.
Yeah.
So he resupplies, it kind of takes the last of the supplies from the plane. And then, he spends his time, like, in this cave that Nate has kind of made for him. And all they do to pass the time is they start to, so Nate didn't know what a plane was, for example, right?
Right.
So they start passing the time, and Roger's like, you've been alive all of history. Right? Like, you must have seen so many amazing things, like, but the problem is, like, Nate's like, well, not really. Like, I've always just been right here in the desert protecting this lever. I've never done anything else. And, so, he's like, well, what about, like, when the Earth flooded or whatever? And he's like, oh, yeah, I remember that. Like, I had to, I was protected from it, and yeah, the desert was kind of covered in water, but I mean, honestly, the bottom of the ocean's not that much different. And that only lasted for, a month or so, and then it all went back down to normal, and I was back in my desert. So he, like, didn't get the whole, like, that this was a global thing. It hurt itself in its confusion. Okay, great. Indeed. Great, now they're all confused. Do they always hurt themselves in their confusion? Fuck.
I feel like there is a higher chance.
There we go.
I'm not sure what the chance is.
So So anyway, it really becomes a little bit more reversed, right? Like, Nate starts asking Roger about all these things. And so Roger's trying to explain things like what a car is, and, you know, what the internet is, and, you know, like, medicine, and just people in general. Like, Nate's he's only met a couple of different people, and most of those he ate, like, immediately, right? So yeah, he has no concept of, like, world history or anything else about anything. And so Roger spends most of the time just like, hey, this is the history of the world kind of deal. And, so this is a smart way. And explaining how mankind has mastered, like, flight. And there's parts of the world that are completely covered by water. You know, like, that is just like a completely foreign concept to Nate, who's lived in the fucking desert his entire life, except for that 1 month when it was underwater. You know, so, like, you know, he talks about, like, you know, the Roman Empire and, you know, the World War II. How did he miss World War II? Like, this whole thing.
Yeah.
But, of course, nobody drove a tank through the middle of the Sahara.
Right.
Right? All these things, you know, the good things about people and the bad things about people, and, you know, what humans are like, you know, human society and things, right? And it's just interesting, like, you know, all the technological advances that have happened just in Roger's lifetime. And Nate's just completely, like, engrossed by Roger's stories, right? Like, oh, this sounds amazing, right? I wish I knew what you were talking about. Like, he has no reference for what an ocean looks like, right? He has no reference for, like what a forest might look like, or a city, or, you know, all these things that Roger's talking about. Like, he's just, like, the most basic things are just like, he just finds it completely compelling.
Yeah.
Right? And so Roger just spends time talking about all these little things that we take for granted every day. And so, you know, as Roger starts to feel better, as Roger starts to feel better, it gets closer and closer to time to go. And he's like, you know, I'm running low on supplies again. I do feel better. I feel healthy. I still need to know how to get out of here, right? Like, I mean, I don't know that I can make it out of the desert. And at this point, you know, Roger is the only friend Nate's ever had.
Right,
Ever. Like,
in the history of the entire
in the
world.
history of the entire universe, Roger is Nate's only friend. And he's never had one before, and he's never had anybody to talk to before. So, you know, Nate is not looking forward to Roger leaving. And like, he's like, yeah, I just learned so much from you, and, like, having you around is so much better than just sitting here guarding this lever for, like, all of eternity, you know? And so Roger, being the smuggler person that he is, right, like, never passes up an opportunity. And he says, you know, when is the last time you've even seen a human? You know, and Nate's been like, oh, it's been like centuries, right?
Yeah.
And like, so just to be clear, it's been hundreds of years since anyone's even come near this lever. Oh, I think I found the big boss, right? He's bald, I assume so.
Yeah.
So, it's been hundreds of years since anyone's even been here. You know, you could travel so much faster than I could. And you can raise your head up much higher than me to see where you're going, and maybe which way to go. What if you just bury the lever really deep in the desert, and you and I, we leave the desert together, and I could show you the world. Like, you can go see these things I'm talking about. You can see them for yourself. You can experience all of these things, right? And of course, you know, Nate's like, I mean, that sounds great, but this is my purpose. This is like the whole reason for my existence is to guard this lever. And I have to. You know, literally the entire universe depends on it.
Right.
You know, if I fail in my duties, it would mean the end of everything. And you know, Roger just gives him the come on, right? Like I mean, it's been thousands of years since anybody's been here. What are the odds somebody's gonna show up while you're gone? We won't be gone that long, right? You just come and I'll show you the world, and you can come right back to your lever. And you know, go right back to doing what you were doing, but now you will have all these experiences to look back on. I'm Blaine, I'm the leader, blah blah blah. Fire Ring, Pokemon, etc. Burn in hell. So this goes on for a while, right? Because Nate is pretty dug in, right? And he's just like, I can't do this, I can't do this. And ouch. Bye, bitch. Sorry, I really just needed him for one round so I could get his next team. Great. Critical hit. So, where did I leave off? Right, so they're going back and forth, right? They're arguing, come on, it won't be that big of a deal. And like, no, I can't do it, right? But Roger's really putting the pressure on him. And eventually he relents, right? I mean, because he really does think it would be cool to see the world and all these things Roger's talking about. But, you know, his sense of duty and purpose is really strong, right? But eventually, you know, they take time and they bury the lever like super deep in the sand, and they try to make it look as natural as possible so nobody can ever see it. And so then they head out, right? They just they pack up whatever's left of the fucking supplies, and Roger gets on his back. Roger gets on his back, and Nate, just as snakes travel really fast when they want to, right? And they start working their way out of the desert, the Sahara. Just like boom, we're leaving. And so for the first time in all of existence, Nate leaves the lever behind. And they go out into the world, and it starts, you know, that they come into like Egypt and they see the pyramids on the way out, and
right.
and you know they kind of go around Africa, right? Because he was a smuggler, he knows some cool things in Africa, and it doesn't take long for the world to learn that there is a giant talking snake.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
At first it's just like rumors from Africa, whatever, right? But then it becomes like no, people have seen it, there's eyewitness accounts. Photos start to emerge, like Bigfoot style, right? And of course, the internet's a thing at this point, so
right. So it's everywhere.
Right, it starts to become a thing. Like, you know, it starts getting like news coverage of like, oh my God, is this thing real? And Roger, our ever-loving, opportunistic smuggler, sees another opportunity, right? And he says, "Listen, Nate." Because at this point, Nate's not like just been trying to quietly roam around. Like a giant talking snake has been quietly roaming around the world, just taking in the sights. And you know, Roger goes, "Hey, you know what we could do? We could lean into this and just make it a thing, right? Like we could come out and be public and then people will actually pay us to travel the world. Like, you will get invited to places like regular people just can't even go, right? Like we will have enough money to go anywhere, to see anything, to do anything you want to do, and like really, you can have burn out. We can really have a truly unique experience. You can see all the things before you go home, right?
Right.
Yay! I beat another gem. Make room for my gift. I have to throw something away, apparently. I don't even know what this is. Wait, what does rare candy do?
That levels them up.
There. Now I should have room, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds neat. Yay, I got another badge. So, I don't even care. So it takes some convincing, because Nate's like, man, I don't know. People know I exist, and it's going to be like a whole thing, and I don't want anyone to know where the lever is, right? He's like, we'll never tell anyone about the lever, right? Like, I mean, we might talk about, like, the fact that it exists, but we'll never tell anyone where it is, right? Like, it's just 100% cross my heart. Not gonna do that. So finally, Roger talks Nate into it, right? And so then they start doing interviews, right? They're traveling the world, and you know they're doing photo shoots, you know. And he becomes like a massive, worldwide fucking celebrity. This Nate has lived throughout the entire, like the timeline. Like he's been alive forever. Right, and so he has this really unique perspective, and he has a kind of wisdom that just like most people wouldn't have, because he's just lived for so long. He's just been allowed to think thoughts for thousands of years, right? Yeah, I was gonna put Pokemon away and stuff, right? Who did I put in here originally?
It was Smog.
Yeah, one Smog and Audrey, that's it. Yeah. Nope. Nope. God damn it! This fucking game and its fucking weird controls. So they start doing a little bit of interviews, and then it kind of starts working its way up, right? Like, he does some interviews, you know, and then eventually it starts to get out of control, though, right? Like, as these things will because the world just can't get enough of Nate the Giant Talking Snake and his, like, special brand of, like, eternal wisdom, right? And so people are writing him letters, and, you know, for a while there's, like, an Ask Nate column,
Yeah.
you know, that he does in like, the New York Times, right? Rolling Stones does a spread on him, literally, because he's so big. You know, they get pictures of him on the Eiffel Tower in Paris.
Right.
You know, like all coiled up around it. That gives somebody else an idea. So he stars in a series of movies about a giant talking snake. Some of them are rom-coms. You know, some of them are horror movies. It starts off as like horror movies, right? But it's not really Nate's thing, so he decided to stop doing that because it was scaring people, and like little kids would see him and start freaking out. And frankly, he loved little kids. He thought they were awesome. They'd climb on him, and he'd give them fucking rides and shit. Like, that was like one of his favorite things to do. He's like the nicest snake you've ever met. So, sorry, I gotta rearrange my guys now. So, no, god damn it. 33. Bruce is 33. 35, 41, 34. Well, Hammond leveled up a lot in that gym, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. That's neat. That's the idea. Do I want to just replace Ember? Actually, I think Scratch is the smaller, yeah. So I mean, it gets to be a big thing, right? Like it starts off smaller, right? Like I said, like B movies and stuff, and then it works its way up. Like it just becomes like he becomes like a major actor. He becomes a major celebrity. He's doing magazine spreads, right? Like, you know, he goes on the like Tonight shows, right? And does interviews on with fucking like Jimmy Kimmel, right? They're all doing sets. He's like playing drums with his tongue, like he's learning how to do these things, right? Like he'd never played drums before. He's just thrilled. He's thrilled about all of it. Like he becomes because it's just such a huge hit. He gets, you know, he starts watching movies himself, you know, and the stories they tell, you know, and of course he loves documentaries because they're like what actually happened. And he starts hanging out with like the cream of the crop, right? Like he starts meeting bands and they do private concerts for him, and he travels the world. And so once he starts learning about all these things, right, and talking to all these other people and meeting with regular folks and celebrities and all these crazy things, I'm probably supposed to go to some sort of next gym or something, I don't know. And
oh yeah, so the next gym is near the beginning of the game. You can just fly there.
Alright, I can fly. I can fly, I'm pilot. So he starts noticing things though. I mean, while it's all new and amazing, and this goes on for like a year or more. Like they were just gonna leave for a little while and see a little bit of the world. I mean, he goes on a cruise because he's never seen so much water before in his life. He sees whales, which are almost as big as he is. Like that is truly amazing, right? Like I didn't realize there were other animals like me that are like huge, right? Like I wonder if they have a lever in the ocean, right? Like the whole thing. And but he starts hearing stories, right? Like you know, he starts getting into like TV and shit, right there. What? Okay. So, but he starts finding out that like there's homeless people, and there's people in real trouble somewhere else in the world, and so he just he has that perspective of like protection, right? Like it's built into him. Why am I here? I already beat this gym or something?
No. That's the last gym.
The place I start at is the last gym?
Yeah, I know. Isn't it weird?
Or wouldn't I just beat this gym early on?
Because it's locked.
It's dumb. Let me see my stats. Yeah, there's only one gym left, huh? Okay. So he becomes like a huge philanthropist, right? He uses his fame and notoriety and, his newfound wealth, which he doesn't even know what to do with, right? Roger helps him with that, right? So he uses his stardom and his pull and all these things to start helping people. Like he starts tackling the homeless crisis, and he starts setting up like drug centers and I can't walk around that guy apparently. And he started disadvantaged countries, right? Like he helps share technology with them, and because he's because he's Nate the Giant Talking Snake, it just opens doors that otherwise wouldn't be opened, right? I mean, he's just so famous and particular, and like he's the ancient being in our world, and so when he's like, guys, we need to come together to fix this, people listen. And he brings world leaders together. He brings peace to the Middle East because that's his home, right? And when he goes on the Tonight shows, they always ask him, like, you say you've existed since the beginning of time. Well, what have you been doing all this time? And so he has to tell them about the lever, right? So the fact that Nate has been protecting the universe since the beginning of time. Like, that is his purpose, right? That is what he has been doing. Like, just gains him automatic respect.
Right.
You know, once people hear his story, and of course they never divulge. They hold to that. They never divulge where the lever is, because they don't want some nefarious fucking supervillain showing up at the lever, right? They're like ground-type Pokemon, huh? Didn't I fight Giovanni once already?
Yeah, but not as a team leader.
I'm just trying to remember what he was like.
He's the team leader.
Okay. So ground-type. Their weakness is grass and water. Okay. We got a lot of fucking hokiness going on right here.
Roar, I'm working myself into a rage.
Nate would never do that. So... Taco wants to fight. He's a fighting type, right?
Yeah. This is a really long fucking story.
I don't understand your point.
It's I'm just inferring.
I told you it was a really long fucking story.
You were correct.
We're only about maybe halfway.
God.
So anyway, he starts solving the world's problems, right? He brings people together.
Yeah.
You know, he starts unifying the planet, right? I mean, everybody fucking loves Nate the Giant Talking Snake. And he brings world leaders together, he brings philanthropy together, he brings businesses together with other people. He's just a beacon of hope. He just gives the entire world, like, hope, and it inspires people to be better, right? And to make, you know, this is your planet, right? Like, through his eyes, we all learn to appreciate what we have, because it's all new to him, right? It's like having a thousands of years old, millennia old child explaining to you the miracles of everyday life. And so he truly changes the world we live in. Like, not just like, hey, our little world or our country, but he teaches us to put all of that aside and realize that we've been given, like, God gave us this gift when he flipped the lever, right? When God flipped that lever and gave us this world, it was ours then, right? And it's up to us to make it a better place. And he's just such an inspiration to literally everyone. Like, women cry. You know, kids have posters of him on their wall, goes all the way around the room, right? You know, like, there are toys, there's a whole lot. Roger, of course, is handling all the licensing for that.
Right.
But there's a whole line of toys, there's the movies, right? I mean, he eventually, like, with some practice, Nate learns to, like, kind of sign his name. He's got, like, this tongue lick, "Watow," you know, thing that he does, and it's fucking, people freak out, right? I mean, it's truly amazing, and he truly changes the world, and it's a new age for all of humankind because of Nate, this giant talking snake. He just inspires us to be so much better than we actually are. And, you know, meanwhile, of course, Roger is as rich as he's ever wanted, like, beyond his wildest dreams.
Yeah.
I mean, they travel in style. Everything they do is fucking first class. Sand Slash. Is that a ground type? Grass and water, eh? We're gonna fire blast him anyway. Fire blast. So in the background, yeah, let's not forget that Roger is also becoming famous as the guy who found Nate. Right? And he's telling his story too, right? And it's interesting. You know, he's not nearly as... those are ducks, aren't they? What is that?
Yeah, those are
I don't like that. Those things are mean.
ducks. That's ducks.
I know. I have one. They're mean. Let's see how this goes.
Oh, you just learned something.
What?
Ground is resistant to poison.
I haven't used poison yet.
You just use poison type of acid.
No. Ground is resistant.
Poison.
Wait, hold on, I gotta add it to the list. Right. So anyway, so yeah, in the background through all this, Roger's getting extremely fucking rich.
Right.
And famous, and they're staying at 5-star hotels, and they're getting the biggest rooms, which most of which Nate can't even get into. So it's just Roger's got to have a place to sleep. And if they're gonna offer it to us, Nate, I mean, I'll just take the room, and then that'll help me handle like all of your interviews, and I'll schedule all your appointments. I mean, he is Nate's personal fucking manager. He handles all of that nasty stuff that Nate doesn't want to deal with, right? Like, he just wants to see people and learn about all the things, right? So, there we go. Now that he's asleep. No, ground, grass, and water. Sure, we'll try Hammond, why not? There you go. Cool. So anyway, that's also happening, right?
Right.
And I mean, that's fine. I mean, eventually, of course, I mean, some people get tired of Nate being in the spotlight, and maybe some of Roger's, like, past deeds start coming out, right? There's maybe a smear campaign kind of thing going on where all these horrible things that Roger used to do when he was a smuggler starting to come to light. People are getting paid pretty pennies to tell these stories because, you know, he's the one getting rich in the background, and there starts to be, like, you know, 60 Minutes investigates, right? And all this shit about, like, oh, and Nate isn't being blamed for this. They're saying that Roger's exploiting Nate in order to profit, right? Like, he's exploiting Nate, he's taking advantage of him for his own personal profit, and, you know, he's all of it, right? Like, he's the evil, corrupting Nate, right? And eventually, you know, he tries to keep it away from Nate, so Nate doesn't really know anything about any of this. But eventually, Nate's gonna fucking find out. Like, he starts getting asked about it in interviews and shit, like, well, how do you feel about your manager taking advantage of you, taking all the money for himself, and, like, all this stuff, and, Nate's like, well, I don't know what you're talking about, right? And so eventually they have a bit of a tiff, a fight, if you will, right? About, like, are you taking advantage of me? Like, what are they talking about, you know? And Roger tells him, like, look, man, when I was lost in that desert, I thought I was going to die. And I promised that if God would let me live, that I would do whatever I could to make this world a better place. And I am not the person to make this world a better place, but you are. And yeah, you know, I know it looks bad, like, you know, I've got some money, blah, 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 blah. He's like, but I would actually give it all away right now, if you tell me to, right? Like, and Roger goes through and shows him, like, you know, I have actually flipped over a new leaf. Like, I've been all these causes, all these, things that you've been doing, I've been putting my money into those things too. Like, don't get me wrong, I have a comfortable life now that I only dreamed of before, and you made that possible. So I don't want to seem ungrateful or any of that. I just want you to know, like, those things are true. And so they kind of make a PR thing out of it, that, yeah, these things are true, like, they address it, and Roger, has flipped over a new leaf, like, he's a new person now. And, it was because of Nate. Nate changed his life, like, that's how they end up spinning it, right? Like, Nate has not only changed the world, he changed my life personally, and I regret all these things, and he has to address some demons from his past, right? Like, he goes back and tries to make things right. Some of these drug cartels that he worked for, and these, what is the word I'm looking for? Right, like war tribe things in Africa that he worked for, right, that oppressed people. Like, he goes back there and uses his money and influence now and knowledge of their operations to, like, bring them to justice and make things right. He realizes that, now part of the next mission, and part of that is Nate too, right? Like, you did these things, we need to make those right as well. And so Nate helps him, and, like, he reforms, and he goes back and he makes restitution for all the bad things he's done. So, game spinning. So, that becomes another part of the story. Nate doesn't just save the world, he saves people. It's not even like this grand thing. Like, he inspires people to just be better. And Roger being the poster child for that redemption arc, right?
Right.
I'm an angry dude.
I'm the Karate King, your fate rests with me.
Okay. So, that becomes a thing, but, this thing goes on and on and on and on and on. And there's so much work to do, right, that they get caught up in this, and so it becomes years. They left that lever in the desert years ago now, and they've traveled the world, and they've brokered peace between nations, and they've fed children, and they found the homeless homes, and they brought down drug cartels, and evil fucking warlords in Africa, and, like, all these things that they've been doing, making the world a better place, and it's truly wonderful, and it makes them both feel great, and it makes everyone else inspired, right? Like, books are written. Roger writes a great book about his redemption. Nate, can't write himself, but he gets a ghostwriter and writes a series of books, inspirational, like, self-help books through his eyes, seeing the world through Nate's eyes, right? It's got the big snake eye on the cover. It's just, it's really, really amazing, and it's this crazy, crazy ride. But eventually Nate starts drifting back to this has all been amazing in a way that I can't describe, but I still have a purpose. And I'm worried about the leper. People know about it. I know we've never talked about where it is, but I've seen what governments will do in order when they're scared and when they want to wield power, or they you know what I mean. Like there are some people out there who are just bad people. And now that I've learned more about the world, I understand that there's satellites. And people could be scanning the desert right now, all the deserts of the world, because they didn't say they were from the Sahara, right? But they could be scanning all the deserts of the world looking for my lever. And I'm worried that someday somebody's going to find it. And if they do, we're all going to be in a lot of trouble. Like, things are going to get really, really bad. And, this conversation would come up every once in a while, and Roger would be like, no, everything's fine. Look at all the great things you're doing, right? And, they're truly talented, win with style. Okay. So, the conversation, it starts happening more and more often, right? And Nate is genuinely starting to feel like this is something that needs to happen. And, so they start fighting about it again. After the first fight they ever had was really about Roger's past, and they got past that, and Roger made restitution, and he did all the right things. And what the fuck? How many times are you gonna hit me?
Jesus Christ.
5 times? Okay. Jesus fuck. guy. So eventually it starts coming out, and they start having fights about it. And you know, to Roger's credit, he's not. It, you know, some people are saying it's for greed, right? Because he is profiting still.
Right.
But you know, he's literally telling Nate, like, Nate, you don't understand what this world was like before you came along.
Right.
Like, you have changed everything, and if you go back into the hiding in the desert, I don't know if the people, like, if you, they will see it as you've abandoned them, and things could go back to the way they were, and we've made so much progress. Oh, Smog is evolving.
Hey.
Look at that. Where are we at? I should probably go. I don't really need to heal, do I? I can just use a potion, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's really, Roger is genuinely concerned about what's going to happen to the world if Nate goes away, because he's just been such an inspiration, right? And he's like, there's got to be another answer, there's got to be another answer, and Nate starts digging in his heels, so to speak, of like, hey man, I need to get back to my lever. Like, I've done that for centuries. You don't understand what it's like. Like, he's like, you know, you've talked about, like, people tell me how they get homesick, right? Like, he's learned that that's a concept, right? He's like, that's essentially what I'm going through right now. I feel homesick. This is the only place I've ever known. That is my home. That is my purpose. Like, unlike you humans who maybe don't know your purpose in life, I do know my purpose. And my purpose is to protect the universe by protecting that lever, right?
Right.
And I need to get back to my purpose. Like, you were right. I'm glad I've done this. And now I can go back to my lever and think about all these amazing and truly wonderful experiences and all the people I've met. And I can carry that with me until the end of time. But I have to get back, or else the end of time is going to come at a time when it shouldn't. Speaking of giant talking snakes. So, oh, this little sprite looks completely different, huh? I'm out of Fire Blast, too. Damn it.
There's only 5 of them, so.
Yep. So, eventually, Roger relents, right? And so they start telling people in interviews that Nate needs to go back to his home, right? He needs to go home. And the world starts to mourn immediately. They're just like, no, we can't lose Nate. Like,
Yeah.
so I mean, it just becomes a huge, and they start doing like this farewell tour, like a world tour. They start hitting like all the countries of the world, so that everyone can say goodbye to Nate. And like, it's sad. Like, the whole world becomes sad. Like, they understand it, but they just become sad, and the people start doing, like, you know how the fucking press and everyone else is. They start doing these doomsday things of, like, fuck off. They start doing these, like, oh my god, what will the world be like without Nate? And, you know, like, it just becomes a thing. Like, stock market crashes, right? Because, oh my god, you know, anyway. And Nate feels bad. Like, he starts to feel guilty about, like, abandoning these people, because some of these people act like he's abandoning them, and it's like they think it's the end of the world. Which he always responds like, no, the end of the world is when that lever gets flipped, and if I'm not there to stop it, like, that will literally be the end of the world. I know you're sad, I'm sad too, but come on, man. Like, we have to think greater good here, people. I mean, what have we been talking about all these years that I've been here? You know, the greater good comes first, right? Like help make the world a better place. I have to go back to doing what I'm supposed to be doing in order to make this world a better place. Oh, I'm stuck down here. Cool. I got a full heal. That'll do it, right? Small poison. Okay. And now he's at like level 36, so I should probably switch him out. So it becomes a thing, right? And he's starting to feel really, really bad about it. And you know, Roger's still trying to be like, hey, you know, we could stay, but he knows that's not really what Nate wants, and that's not really what Nate needs, right? And for somebody who's given the world so much, you know, how can Roger try to manipulate him or something at this point into into doing something that he clearly does not want to do, right? And but then it finally happens, right? Roger has an idea that hadn't occurred to anyone else yet. Roger says, what if we bring the world to you? What if you could go home and protect the lever, and but then the world could still come to you? Like, think Disneyland, man. What if we had Nate Land, right? Out in the middle of the desert, we would just make this like giant amusement park that people could come to, and they could see you, and you could still see them, and the world could be brought to you, right? Like, we'll figure out a way to get internet, and electricity, and water, and all the things that we'll need. And then you can still remain connected to the outside world while also protecting your lever. And Nate's like, wow, that's, I'll have to think about it, you know, because then we'll be revealing the location of the lever, right? But I really have grown to love the people in this world, and I want to stay, and I want to help, continue, you know, to help. But I also know I need to be there. Like, I feel it in my, it was like my purpose. It's why I was created. So I really need to be there. And, you know, so Roger says, what if we build like this impenetrable, like, casing to go around the lever, right? Like bulletproof glass and da-da-da-da. And so Roger takes his own money and he starts hiring engineers and like figuring out a way to protect the lever in the middle of this amusement park so that Nate can protect the lever and also be exposed to the world. So while Roger works on that, and, you know, to try to make Nate comfortable so that Nate can still be a part of this world, we're going to take a break, and we'll see you next time on I Dare You to Play Pokemon, and part 3 of Nate the Giant Talking Snake. Bye, guys!
Bye.